Welcome to today's Explainer. So if you're a focused learner looking to master the mechanics of literally the world's largest democracy, well, you're in exactly the right place. Today we're unpacking Chapter 5, and we're going to explore a massive, high-stakes logistical undertaking that comes together to form India's electoral system. It is a brilliant blueprint of governance, and we're going to break down exactly how it works, from the overarching principles right down to the specific mechanics inside a polling booth. Okay, let's dive into this.
980 million. I mean, that is nearly a billion people. That was the approximate number of eligible voters in the 2024 Lok Sabha elections. Just pause and think about the sheer, awe-inspiring scale of that operation for a second. Coordinating an event where nearly a billion individual voices are heard, it requires a system that isn't just robust, but meticulously designed from the ground up.
All right, to understand how that massive number translates into democratic action, here's our roadmap for today. 1. Universal franchise explained. 2. The scale of Indian elections. 3. Inside the polling station. 4. Making voting accessible. And 5. Electing the president.
Let's jump straight into Part 1, Universal Franchise Explained, the true foundation of democracy.
To really understand the origins of this system, we have to look back at the Constituent Assembly debates in November 1949. Alati Krishnaswamy Iyer noted that India adopted adult franchise with an abundant faith in the common man. And to grasp how truly radical this was, consider this. Back in 1947, India's literacy rate was only about 14%, and for women, it was a mere 8%. Now, some people at the time argued that voting rights should only go to the literate. But the framers of the Constitution boldly decided otherwise. They placed their trust entirely in the common citizen right from the dawn of independence. So, what exactly does this mean in practice? Well, universal adult franchise is simply the right of all adult citizens to vote in elections, forming the absolute bedrock of democratic governance. It doesn't matter your wealth, income, gender, social status, race, ethnicity, or political stance. It means every single adult voice holds equal weight in the voting booth. It is the ultimate equalizer.
And this foundational right expanded even further decades later. Before 1988, you actually had to be 21 to vote, but in 1988, India boldly lowered the voting age to 18. I want you to just reflect on that for a second. By bringing 18 to 20-year-olds into the electorate, millions of young voices were suddenly empowered to shape their government. Think about how much that youth vote impacts the policies and direction of the country today. It's a total game changer.
Moving on to Part 2, the scale of Indian elections, which is frankly a logistical marvel.
Now that we understand the right to vote, let's talk about the execution. To accommodate 980 million voters across 543 parliamentary constituencies, the Election Commission had to set up over 1 million polling stations. 1 million. And a system like this doesn't just run itself, right? It requires a massive deployment of civic personnel. In fact, many of the people who run this entire process are everyday civic workers. We're talking about school teachers pulled in for election duty. It's this huge, interconnected web of everyday people working together to pull off this singular, massive event. All right, let's zoom in a bit for Part 3, Inside the Polling Station, the Mechanics of a Vote.
So what actually happens when you walk through the doors on Election Day? It's a highly structured three-step procedural journey. First, the first polling officer checks your name on the electoral roll and verifies your ID proof. Then, you move on to the second polling officer. They mark your finger with that famous indelible ink, hand you a voter slip, and take your signature or thumb impression. Finally, the third polling officer takes your slip, checks your inked finger one last time to make absolutely sure there's no double voting, and allows you to cast your vote. Oh, and if you don't happen to support any of the candidates, the NOTA option, none of the above, is sitting right there for you to select.
Speaking of the actual machine, the technology driving this huge exercise relies on electronic voting machines, or EVMs, and voter-verifiable paper audit trail, or VVPAT systems. This tech makes sure the whole process is fast, but also incredibly transparent. And what's genuinely fascinating here is that this Indian election technology is so highly regarded, countries like Namibia and Bhutan have actually adopted these exact systems with support from the Election Commission of India. Other nations literally send people to study this technology and get training from India on how to pull it off. Which brings us to Part 4, making voting accessible, leaving no voter behind. Because an election of this size, it isn't just about cold technology, right? There is a deeply human element here. The system actively works to break down physical barriers. That might mean rolling out red carpets with dedicated volunteers guiding elderly citizens, or ensuring persons with disabilities have the exact support they need to proudly participate.
The whole thing is engineered to actively encourage participation from every single demographic.
And they go even further than that. In recent general elections, the Election Commission introduced pan-India home voting for the very first time, meaning election officials will physically travel to set up a secure voting compartment right inside the homes of eligible senior citizens and persons with disabilities. By offering this, the electoral system bridges major participation gaps. It ensures that even if you physically can't make it to the polling station, your voice is absolutely still going to be heard.
Let's zoom back out for our final section, Part 5, Electing the President, the highest office.
So, we've spent a lot of time talking about how the common citizen votes, but what about the highest office in the land? You see, the President of India is not directly elected by the common people. Instead, they're chosen by a specific electoral college. This is made up of elected representatives, members of parliament from both the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha, plus members of the legislative assemblies, or MLAs, from every state, as well as the union territories of Delhi and Puducherry. So while you vote for your local representatives, those representatives then step up to carry your mandate forward to elect the head of state.
We've covered the history, the staggering numbers, the step-by-step mechanics, and the incredibly inclusive nature of India's voting system from Chapter 5. But as we wrap up, I want to leave you with this question to think about. As democracy evolves and technology advances, what new innovations will shape the future of how 1 billion people vote? From a 14% literacy rate to biometric verification and exporting electronic voting tech around the world, the journey has been incredible. So, where do we go next?
Thank you so much for joining me on today's Explainer. If you found this breakdown helpful and you're looking to master Chapter 5 to completely ace your exams, well, the logical next step is waiting for you. Go ahead and grab our exclusive study bundles from the link mentioned right down in the description. It's got the whole shebang, everything you need to cement your learning. Keep analyzing, keep exploring, and I'll see you in the next Explainer.